another level. Throughout the years, these sports have been played in illegal ways. Thus, the NCAA was formed to set rules and regulations on how these sports should be played and how these issues should be dealt with. But what exactly is the NCAA? Let's take a look.
The National Collegiate Athletic Association, or the NCAA, organizes the sporting events of over 1,400 colleges and universities in both the U.S. and Canada. The NCAA is a multi-billion-dollar industry that gets its money from the sporting events that it programs. The president is Mark Emmert.
Our goals are, in fact, to put the best collegiate athletes on the court and to provide them with educational opportunities. That's what we do.
Dr. James Naismith, a physical education professor and instructor at the YMCA in Springfield, Massachusetts, on December 1891 created the sport known as basketball. His main objective was to seek a vigorous indoor game which could keep students active while in the mid-1850s, baseball became very popular in the New York metropolitan area. The National League, which is the oldest surviving major league, was founded in 1876. The first successful counterpart of the National League was the American League, which was founded in 1901. In 1903, a national agreement of peace was created between the National and American League. Thus, in 1905, the first World Series was held. The first game of intercollegiate football was played on November 6 of 1869 at New Brunswick, New Jersey between Rutgers University and Princeton University. Rutgers won the first game 6-4.
There are about 1,500 colleges and universities within the NCAA. They're divided in three divisions, Divisions 1 through 3, with Division 1 being the strongest, Division 2 being the second strongest, and Division 3 being the weakest.
Now, just because the NCAA was created did not mean all these problems and issues with college sports would just go away. In fact, though they lessened, these problems never disappeared. Two of these examples would be the Reggie Bush scandal and the Miami Hurricane scandal. Let's take a look.
Reggie Bush was a phenomenal college football running back at USC during his college years. He rushed for over 3,000 yards, averaged 7.3 yards per carry, and scored 42-plus touchdowns.
One question, now who rep Jersey like me? Maybe few dudes ain't worthy like you. You know I keep something pretty by. Good pair frames, polo white tee. I see something with a body, have 'em like please. Extra small waist, top looking like these. God don't cuff 'em or make 'em white feet. But you ain't Coco and I ain't iced tea, so it's unlikely. I trick on a trying to ball. Tattoo on the back said China doll. Joey, talk to him like I'm a Charlotte. Yeah, to a brother need a Tylenol. And let's keep what we do on a
Colleges and universities receive huge amounts of income based on the players' production.
But even though these players bring in all that money to the colleges and universities, they aren't allowed to receive any gifts or money for their athletic skill
from non-family members.
He won the Heisman Trophy Award, which is the most prestigious award given to college players. Unfortunately for him, that put him under the spotlight. Just before the 2006 draft, where he was chosen second overall to the New Orleans Saints, reports surfaced of his ineligibility, raising questions about whether his family received gifts in violation of NCAA policies, which state that boosters are not allowed to encourage a prospect's participation in university athletics or provide benefits to prospects that aren't previously provided. Such allegations were initially denied by Bush, but later Lloyd Lake, a sports agent who gave the benefits to Bush and his family, sued them in November 2007 for not repaying over $290,000 in gifts, and he cooperated with the NCAA in this investigation. USC, as a result of a poor enforcement of the rule on such a high-profile athlete, received a 2-year postseason ban, 4 years probation, and a loss of scholarship money. Also, Reggie Bush had to give up the Heisman Trophy back to the Heisman Trophy Trust, which was a huge embarrassment on him since he is the only athlete in history who had to forfeit the merit of the trophy. The NCAA's public website does not report any punishment given to the boosters.
A similar case occurred on the University of Miami's football team on a larger scale. One booster, named Nevin Shapiro, provided thousands of impermissible benefits to at least 72 athletes from 2002 to 2010, according to Yahoo Sports reporters. In this case, 8 key players of the team who accepted the benefits were suspended for a season. Process of a typical major infractions case. First, the enforcement staff receives credible information from several different resources about possible violations. To get on this staff, one must be appointed by the NCAA membership. Once the staff receives adequate information on the violation, an investigation occurs, which includes an interview of all possible individuals involved in the case and the requirement of enforcement representatives to obtain significant supporting documentations such as phone records, academic records, and bank statements. If the investigation uncovers no verifiable evidence of a major violation, the case is dismissed. If evidence is discovered, however, the case moves on to the next phase.
The NCAA then sends the institution a notice of allegations. If the institution agrees with the allegations, they proceed to summary disposition or a determination made without issuing a legal opinion, and the case is closed. If the institution does not agree, they proceed to the next phase. Both the enforcement staff and the institution present their information to the Committee on Infractions. 6 to 8 weeks later, the committee releases its report on the allegations. If the institution is found not guilty, the case is closed. If it is guilty, they proceed to the final step.
This last step is where the penalties come in. The penalties are decided by the Committee on Infractions and are given to the institutions. Penalties tend to vary case by case. To get on the Committee of Infractions, one must be voted in by the NCAA membership and the independent public. Each person then serves a 3-year term for a max of 3 terms. The institution may choose to appeal their case to a separate body of membership and independent individuals if needed. Otherwise, the case is closed. So with such seemingly perfect foundation set in place, what possible controversy could surface? You'd be surprised to find out that the major controversy is whether players should get paid. This belief is known as pay for play, which is compensating players with money for their athletic abilities. Let's see what the NCAA president has to say about this and what a group of members.
Should college athletes be paid? This is a huge issue for me. I have a lot of thoughts on this. Talk amongst yourselves in the next minute. Talk amongst yourselves in the next minute. It's a show that we're doing for March, one of the single theme shows, which I think is a terrific way to approach real sports.
At the risk of sounding contrary, I mean, people in trite fashion ask from time to time, should players be paid? I like to phrase it in a different fashion, which is we have this multi-billion-dollar collegiate sports industry. We have to figure out a way to fairly compensate those who are fueling that industry. Like Bernie said, what a great business model. You make billions, oh, and by the way, you don't have to pay the employees anything. How great is that? I mean, it's the only institution in America that you can think of like this, where you're making billions of dollars. Oh, and by the way, you don't pay the people.
The other argument, and Bryant's going to jump in 3 seconds into my saying this, the other argument is we're giving you a college education for free.
Right. Like it cost the University of Florida to put another butt in the seat. I mean, it's insane. It's insane.
And the other argument beyond that, which is a bit more subtle, is you're playing for your school. You're playing for your school. Now, to some people, that's downright laughable. Like Brian is weeping over it. It's laughable because the school you're playing for is literally making hundreds of millions of dollars on your talent. But let's be clear. This is a story about not that they should get paid, but it's a whole discussion about whether.
Yeah, how do we compensate them? How do we compensate them? And by the way, this is not some kumbaya moment. I mean, let's be honest about this. If and when, even if you pay athletes, some will still cheat. Some schools will cheat. Some guys will take money under the table. And said this isn't going to equalize anything. The only thing is, it will make for a fairer system for the athlete if we can find some way to compensate them fairly for what they're doing for their schools. They don't right now. Too many.
Some people would argue that the NCAA has the best salary cap in sports.
We don't have salaries at all. We provide students with access to education, and we provide them with the cost of tuition fees, room, board, books, and supplies, and there's not even a salary to debate. They're not employees, they're students.
The NCAA can attempt, for as long as it manages, to hold the line here. But I think at some point there's just going to be too much pressure. I think even NCAA leaders are going to say, now, how many zeros do we have this time around for this tournament? Or did you say billion with a B? And, you know, can we in good conscience continue to do this?
Meeting this week to vote and likely approve a plan that would allow conferences to increase scholarships beyond tuition, room and board, and books by $2,000. I sat down with the NCAA president at a night commission meeting in Washington, D.C. yesterday. Here's what he said.
So no student's ever going to get paid to play. There's a variety of expenses that students have that are still underneath the cap of what it costs to go to that school, and we're just trying to fill the gap between what they get now and what they really need to go to school.